May I have your name, please?
Estes Kefauver.
And your age?
Paul, I really might be inclined to plead the immunity of the Fifth Amendment on my age, but I guess it's all right. I'm 51 now.
And your occupation, sir?
I'm a politician, a member of the United States Senate.
Senator Kefauver, what have you learned so far in your investigation on the subject of comic books?
Paul, we had an extensive hearing in New York some months back, and we've had other hearings in other parts of the country. I was amazed to find the number of comic books being published each month in the United States. We found about 100 million. Of these 100 million going out, approximately 80 million are all right. They're funny, entertaining. Some of them are educational. But about 20 million were of the horror and crime type in which we are particularly interested. And this comic book business is really big business.
Well, what about the effect of these comic books on the children?
All of our testimony from psychiatrists and children themselves show that it's very upsetting, that it has a bad moral effect, and that it is directly responsible for a substantial amount of juvenile delinquency and child crime.
Are there presently comic books in publication that you feel are harmful to children?
Yes, there are still some, although not as many as there used to be. The industry, you know, has appointed a czar. They have a code. Mr. Murphy is in charge of the code operation. They submit their comic books to him, and he passes on them. They are now not supposed to show crime and horror in their comics.
Do you feel that legislation to control this type of comic book, this harmful comic book, is indicated?
Yes, I think some legislation would be helpful. Legislation regulating, tightening up the mail statutes, and regulation breaking up the tie-in sales. But I'm not in favor of a so-called censor legislation outlawing comics altogether.
Well, what do you think are the dangers to our constitutional rights in this type of legislation, Senator?
I think the dangers are that if you start censoring comic books, it might lead on to censoring other things, and it might encroach upon our constitutional freedom of the press. And after all, Paul, the only way that you can really stop this kind of thing is to arouse public opinion. If the people in a section decide they don't want these horror and crime comic books sold, read by their children, if they will become adamant and vigorous about it, they will just not be sold in that section. That is the best guarantee. And Paul, that's why I'm so happy that you're doing this production confidential file, arousing public opinion in this whole field of juvenile delinquency, apathy, the lack of interest on the part of the people at the local community is the biggest enemy that we have. And through programs of this kind and committees that have been formed, other media of information, I think that people are beginning to know the facts, and there are very wholesome evidences that they're doing something about it.
Well, Senator, thank you very much for your cooperation.
Good to be here with you, Paul, and I'll see you again. Good luck in your work.